So James Carville came out of the woodwork on a CNN interview being like, why is Joe Biden losing? It's almost like we suck. I mean, the Democrats are just frustrated that Donald Trump bad doesn't seem to work as a good political slogan. But he went with the tried and true strategy. Just blame the voters for being too stupid to realize how great the economy is. I mean, we just had Hillary Clinton come out here and say the young people are stupid, so let's just say the rest of the country's stupid. Let's see how this PR strategy works out.
How do you think President Biden should handle this? Should he be commenting on the trial more directly, or they're obviously wary of doing so given Trump has so directly tried to say that this is Biden's trial, even though it's obviously not.
It's not like this thing is not being covered. I mean, you don't need to throw an extra log on a fire. I mean, it's blazing away now. And I think I agree that the president should stay away from it, shouldn't comment on it. But right now, he's got to try to move some numbers here. These polls are stuck in a ditch, and they've been that way for a while.
Okay, the reason they're all panicking is because we just had recent polling come out showing that Biden is down in all the battleground states. He might be winning one of them. And they can't figure out why he's losing. And it's obvious that young people are very concerned on what's going on in Gaza. Also, people can't afford to buy a house anymore. Credit card debt is in record numbers. And they keep selling us that the Biden economy is so great. It's the greatest economy we've had in decades, which is just not true if you actually look at the numbers. Yeah, unemployment is low. We have grocery bills consistently going up 7%. Now real world expenses that people actually have to pay who vote, billionaires who donate to Democratic politicians, see this and say, you haven't done anything for me lately. You didn't raise the minimum wage because of the Senate parliamentarian, which wouldn't stop the Republicans, but anytime something that could help you or me, Democrats always seem to find a way out. Whereas the Republicans are very much on message saying, we're going to cut taxes for your paycheck and we're going to give you more money and you're going to be able to afford things. And we're actually going to work on the cost of living because that's a real problem. Versus the Biden administration pretends it's not a problem.
If the Access Hollywood tape didn't derail Trump's campaign in 2016, why would a case involving business records for the Stormy Daniels payoff derail his campaign in 2024?
You would think all of these indictments, you'd think the COVID response, you would think everything that had been January the 6th, I was firmly convinced that it would be done in by January 6th. More people than ever think it's a tourist visit now. Democrats are doing, the president's doing terrible with voters under 30 and with black voters, which are pretty key to this whole equation here. So hopefully we can get something going here in the next 4 or 5 months.
We tried everything by doing nothing, but we're out of ideas. I'll tell you why these cases aren't working against Donald Trump. People don't give a shit that he paid off a porn star to keep an affair quiet. I don't think anyone really cares about the moral character of the President of the United States. They care whether he's doing a good job. They care whether they can afford their grocery bills. They care whether they can go to college. They care whether they can afford health care. Talk about the things you're going to do in order to remedy these problems. Don't simply say Donald Trump bad, because that's their only fucking strategy. Everyone already knows Donald Trump has very questionable moral character. Every president has questionable moral character. But voters feel like, hey, the Trump economy was actually really good up until COVID. And I don't care what anyone says. Anyone who was president during COVID probably wouldn't have won re-election.
Now we kind of know that this might be maybe the only trial that we see of Donald Trump this year. Is it time for Democrats to move on and look at the fundamentals of this race and not see these trials as somehow
great question
this X factor that's going to have a huge influence on how this thing turns out in November?
I don't see the numbers for the president moving. Now, on the upside is we are doing pretty well in these Senate races, and that's been pretty consistent over several months. I see a lot of Senate polling. Right now in the presidential race, this is a sticky wicket out there. That's all I can say.
What might happen in November is Donald Trump becomes president, and then below the ticket, the Democrats do really well because Joe Biden is just so unpopular. People look at the wars abroad, full-throated support for Israel, and endless Ukraine funding. And people look at this recent legislation that passed billions of dollars of foreign aid, and people are like, what about my life? I need help. But the Uni Party always seems to come through when it ever comes to funding wars and NSA spying. Ask things that are popular that actually help the American people. This isn't a messaging problem, this is a policy problem. To Biden's credit, he did try to do student loan forgiveness, but he probably knew in the back of his mind it's probably going to be struck down by the Supreme Court. That's the one thing he did that actually helps normal people. But everyone else who has a job or didn't go to college, they're like, Why the fuck would I vote for you?
Are all these characters parading to the courthouse to maybe audition for Trump's VP? There's some who were here this week, some who were down in Mar-a-Lago over the last couple weeks. Which one do you think poses the greatest threat here to the Biden campaign at this point?
I don't see any vice presidential pick changing the basic equation that we're looking at right now. Really don't. I mean, what I'm hoping happens is recovery keeps going on and it keeps digging deeper down and people start feeling it. But right now, it's a recovery that people are denying that exists. And it's a good word as a recovery because you have come back from something, so we should call it a recovery. Our economic messaging is not breaking through. It's been counterproductive so far.
The best word right there is apathy. He's like, well, I don't really know what to say. He doesn't talk about any of the Biden achievements, the Chips and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, capping insulin costs. There are good things that you can run on, sir, but they also don't acknowledge why people are in pain right now, because inflation has eaten away everyone's paychecks. Majority of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck. Put forward an agenda saying, we're going to get the cost of living down. We're going to give you a public option for health care. We're going to start conditioning arms sales to Israel and Ukraine. But no, it's blank check for anybody who gives us money, and the American people, are just too stupid to realize how good the economy is.